listeners. This is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. Julia Washington from Pros and Glow and a bunch of podcast episodes on this feed is back with us today, and you know her and you love her. We're here to talk about Anora, and more importantly, whether white men should still be allowed to direct and or write films. Julia, welcome.
Thank you for having me back. Thank you for always having me on your show.
Thank you for joining me in 2025, the year of the hater.
The year of the hater. I woke up a hater.
I woke up a hater. I was born a hater. I'll die a hater. Direct quote from my sister. Was born a hater, die a hater. Kendrick said it was fine.
In 2025, 100%.
100%. And in this theme of the year of the hater, we will be talking about the Oscar-winning movie Anora and why Julia and I are confused.
I'm so uncomfortable. Firstly, I do want to say I do have a presentation that I do about like who's allowed to tell the story and like what makes it okay and like when is it okay and then like what is it's a whole thing. It's like an hour-long workshop. I've presented it a couple of times, so I feel acutely.
I thought you meant for like today. You were like, tolerators, I brought slides.
No,
I knew that you had done this work previously. I was like, what is she talking about? She has a whole ass presentation for us today.
Yeah. Yes, I do. No, and I feel like that is the place I'm coming from in our conversation about Anora, aka Annie.
Well, and as you know, I have been trying to only consume women-made media. Mm-hmm. Girls, gays, and theys only are allowed to write and produce the things that I want to be involved in. Now, that was mostly on my Spotify. And then I realized, I was like, I watch so much male-centered TV. White Lotus, for example. But does Mike White identify as queer? Is that correct?
I thought he was gay. Am I wrong?
Someone tell me I'm wrong. That's something that I think is a thing.
Is this like a Mandela effect situation?
Who's to say? But anyways, he makes the cut. And we'll be doing an episode on White Lotus. But I think the only reason I couldn't enjoy Anora is because the Academy presented me the option to think about this movie deeply. I think if it had just been one of my like cheap movie night free popcorn Tuesdays and I'm just in the theater watching it, it would have ended and I would have went, wow, that's a wild ride. And then I would have walked out of it and then it would have won Best Picture and I would have been like, huh. Because that movie would have left almost no impression on me. Like, it would have just been, like, a fun romp, if you will.
A fun romp, if you will. Yeah, I think I texted you, oh, this is Pretty Woman, but gritty. That's
gritty.
And I feel like that probably made its way into its pitch somehow. And I'm just speculating. I don't know.
Well,
I don't work in Hollywood.
And then on one of the posters, I saw that it was, like, calling itself a Cinderella story. And I was like, that's icky.
Also feels wrong. And not because of the Anora character and who she is and like what her line of work is, but because of like the story of Cinderella is she's being saved from a heinous situation. Sex work is real work.
Correct.
So are you implying that her work situation or are you implying that she's being saved through this heinous situation of being married to this kid? Help me. Like, it's like one of those things where I'm just like, help me understand where the Cinderella-ness is.
Well, and as you know, I read the script before I watched the movie. So I had to be inside the brain of a man, and then I had to watch the man's movie.
Yeah, because he also directed it. He wasn't just the writer. He wasn't just the director. He was also the editor.
Yeah. It was his shtick. And I kept texting you. I was like, so I'm reading this fucking screenplay. And I was like, it's like they gave an Oscar to the 8th grade middle school boy that lives inside of Sean Baker.
Well, because like this, so I don't know where you want to start, but for me, it was like the movie opens up with just tits and ass.
Tits and ass.
Because, so I'm like, okay, so you're like hard launch establishing that she is a sex worker. Got it. But compared to like Hustlers, right? With that's called Hustlers with J-Lo.
Yes.
They established it in a way that didn't feel cheap to the industry. And by industry, I mean sex work.
Well, and I think the thing about that opening scene is it is what the whole thing about the scenes in the club for me was this is what men fantasize going to clubs is like. And then this is the male experience in a dance club, an exotic dance club. In Hustlers, I know Usher was one of the clients, but I don't remember seeing any men in that club. And it's because that story was told through the lens of the actual exotic dancers.
Which I feel like the whole time I was like, because it's called Anora, that's her. That's our leading main character. And I feel like, sir, were you trying to tell us this story through her lens? Because if that's the case, we wouldn't be seeing her. There would be, I would think, if that, in my mind, if that's the case, then the visuals needed to be different.
Correct. That's how I also feel about it. Another movie that I recently saw that I think offers a different lens to work that is adjacent to the work that Annie does in the movie is The Last Showgirl. Again, it's all through Pamela Anderson's experience. I very rarely get to watch men ogle her. And she is a topless showgirl in Vegas.
Yeah. 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 Because I was like, I don't need to see this old guy. I don't need to hear the conversation. Like, you don't have to establish the conversation where, does your family know you do this? Does your father know you do? So that's still, to me, placing a level of shame on this line of work.
Yes. And then there's the actual, like, scenes with Ivan. And it's the way that it was written out for me where I was like, immediately I have the ick.
Well, neither of the characters have fully developed brains because Ivan/Vanya is 21 and Annie's 23. And this very much felt like a middle-aged man's interpretation of a 23-year-old woman.
Yes.
Continue, sorry.
So, like, Ani asked Ivan to sit on his hands, and he's like, yeah, sit on my hands. And she's like, yeah, hands under your lap. And I was like, this does read like a male-centered fantasy where it's like, oh, the dancer likes me. It has nothing to do with the money. She just, like, really likes me.
Oh, yeah, because at one point, doesn't she say, like, I'm not supposed to be doing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a no-no, but I like you. Yeah. Ivan nods. Annie stands, turns and removes her bottoms, twirling the thong around on her fingers. She sits and straddles. Ivan is losing his mind. I'm like, that's a very immature way to write something. At one
Somebody
point,
needs to read a romance novel.
Well, and at some point, I was like, also, the detail isn't necessary. This is a screenplay that you yourself are going to direct, so you don't actually have to write out her every move. Like, at one point, when they go back to the club to find Ivan, there's a line that says some naughty things happening behind some of those doors. And I highlighted it and went, this one best screenplay. Some naughty things happening behind some of those doors. Again, you're directing it. It is known to us that those things would be happening in the private rooms of the exotic dance club. Like, did you just write that out for funsies for you? Like, there were so many instances of that where I was like, we didn't need this amount of detail. I recently read the screenplay for Bridesmaids. Do you remember the very graphic sex scene that opens up Bridesmaids where we find out that John Hamm is funny for the first time?
Yeah, that's a great
And it's
scene.
a lot of physical comedy, but they are boning one another. Literally none of the physical comedy is written out. Like, whoever directed that movie was like Kristen Wiig and John Hamm, and a director will figure that out. I don't have to think about it that hard. And I was like, that's how I prefer it.
Yeah. I understand that. I also feel like there was a lot so this is where I'm like, do I not get this movie? Because the entirety of the internet is like, oh, it's so good, you have to watch it. An hour into it, and I was just like, okay, so now we finally got to the point where she finds out that, like, it's actually a bad thing that they got married. There's trouble in paradise. But it took an hour to get there. And then the scene where he takes off and she's screaming and that all kind of comes to a head is too long, because it's like do you think 23-year-old women are that dense that they can't like she watched him take off, she's assuming he's getting help, but then you spend the next what felt like 5 minutes, maybe longer, having them yell at her, physically assault her to get her to calm down and to like explain to her. And even still, you're like, after you've tied her up and put a gag on her, you're still having to, you still feel like you're having, so like all of that could have been tightened up for me. Because it's like, okay, I get it. I get it. Like, do this. And then I paused it. It was like, we still have an hour and 15 minutes? Like, we haven't even gotten to the part yet where his parent, like, are you kidding me? Like, what?
Well, because also that whole scene of him fleeing and then them accosting her and screaming at her and her screaming back and assaulting them and all of it, that's under the comedy part of the screenplay. Like, viewers keep asking me to put the comedy brain onto that. And I'm like, I don't think hitting people is funny. I don't know.
I
Like,
that is very, listen,
that's scary.
that's really fucking scary. And as a person, without going into detail, as a person who has been in abusive situations, that's not funny.
No.
And I literally wrote, oh, I wonder if his like vision was, you know, because they tie her up, and I'm like, this the whole time I'm like, this whole scene is just insane. And I put in quotes, it's like, she's so tough, she can hold her own against two big strong men. Like, is that the descriptor? Because I already assume that Annie can hold her own. She is a sex worker. I'm sure there are a ton of people who come in and think that they can abuse her. Slash, we see her living situation. It's her, and we realize it's her sister at some point. She takes trains. She's, we can assume that there's a level of extent of her being able to hold her own because of the line of work she's in, and because of her commute, and because her parents are nowhere to be found, right? Like, there's a passive comment about like, well, if you want to meet my parents, you have to go to Florida to meet my mom and her man, which is a good implication, right, of like whatever her family life is. With that said, it's like, you don't have to show me that she can beat up two grown men, because like all the 23-year-old women I knew when I was 23 couldn't.
Correct. And I also think that, like, again, it's like how Game of Thrones used to always make sure that, like, a woman got beat up at least once a season to heighten that woman's storyline.
I hate it. I hate it. We don't need physical violence against women to heighten a woman's storyline.
Right. And then I'm with you. I think that the movie gets a lot of credit that I don't think it earns. Like, I think that people want to put it's so empowering for women who are in the sex industry. Please write in. I need to know.
Because I felt like Hustler did that.
Correct.
I felt like J-Lo's movie was very much like, we are taking our power back, you mother effing pieces of shit who abuse us. But we love, and like there was just something so fantastic about that movie. And it did not get the accolades that Anora is getting.
Of course it didn't.
I mean, it did. J-Lo did get nominated for an Academy Award. That's a whole separate conversation. Like, I don't know if she's that great of an actress, but I do think that like it is a little bullshit that the female-centered movie versus this one. You know what I mean?
Well, and also, like, if you want me to feel empowered about what Ani's job is, I should have spent more time with her and her coworkers and her actual relationships within that structure. She goes from a sex worker to a wife almost overnight.
Yeah, because he's like basically like, be my girlfriend for a week. Okay, Richard Gere. And then he's like, I'll pay you $10,000. And she's like, 15, whatever. They negotiate that. And then the view of that is literally just them laying around while he's playing video games. And then also like,
and
them
she's draped on him.
And she's like, yeah, like a blanket. And then like partying and having a good time and drugs galore. And he really is this sort of privileged kid who hasn't contributed to the wealth. We learn that he's running away from his obligations and responsibility to contribute to the wealth, which is the whole point of whatever. That's what you got to do when you're in a wealthy family. You got to make the wealth bigger. Um, and it really felt to me like these are children playing grown up who don't understand anything. With that said, though, again, it felt very much like inauthentic to that age group. I don't know. And you know what? I grew up in California in an ag community. Like maybe I'm misinterpreting it because I didn't grow up in Jersey and have access to Manhattan.
But also, I feel like, again, like, I feel like the acting was superb.
Yeah, Mikey Madison did a great
A
job.
great job.
Because that's not how she sounds. She does not talk like that.
And that Ivan kid immediately wanted to throat punch him. I was like, someone give this kid an Adderall. Someone crush it up into his vodka.
I mean, he played privileged little whiny brat very, very well.
I wanted him to take so many downers every scene. I was like, I honestly find him unwatchable because I'm so aggravated by him.
Well, and also, wasn't that the point, him being infantilized the whole time, right? Like when the guy was like, who gave you permission to go to Vegas? He's 20 fucking one. He can go to Vegas. Like,
she talks to him like a toddler the first time that they have sex. Like, so she like and again, if you had bought me into the agency that I perceived her having in the club and made that a harsher reality for me when her agency was ripped away, because she's talking to him like a toddler. She is straddling that line of boys either want whores or mothers, and you can be both within the same 10 minutes. And she's like babying him about the condom. Like, do you want me to put this on? Do you want to put it on? Who's going to do this? And like,
yeah, that's very porno.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like, but also, and then there's also demonstrations of her being still really young too, because she's like, I want a honeymoon in Disney World. I want to be in the Cinderella suite. And you're like, and I know there's Disney adults out there.
There's Disney adults everywhere.
I understand that. But I think in this context, it was used to demonstrate how she's still also very young.
Yes. Well, and I think it also demonstrates that, like, what are her worldviews? Like, the fanciest place she can think of going with all of his money is Disney World.
Right. Like, if you tell me that you're like a billionaire arms dealer, baby, we are going to the south of France.
We're going to Europe for a year.
Just to start. We are starting in the south of France, and we are hitting up so much of Europe.
Yeah, and I'm going to the White Lotus in Thailand. Like, okay, that's what we're doing. But again, it's like, I don't truly know anything about Ani still. Even when the violence starts to escalate, I'm like, give me something about her. Give me something about her relationship with her mom. Does she resent her sister for having to pay rent? Like, we got a glimpse of that.
Yeah, because it very much is a story about her, but kind of through the kids' lens.
Yeah.
Through the boys' lens, right? Like, am I off on
through a man's lens?
Yeah, because I'm like sorry. Go ahead.
It's like when a guy is talking about his Tinder date at the bar.
Yeah.
And he didn't actually listen to, number one, he didn't ask you a question about yourself.
You just talked the whole time.
That would be silly.
Yeah.
That would be silly for him to ask you a question about your hopes, dreams, future, whatever.
Things you like, you know.
Things you like, things you're currently doing. That would be silly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it's her story told through several lenses that aren't her own.
And then it left me feeling like I wish it had truly been her lens, or give me through the lens of Ivan/Vanya, or even Igor, because he clearly was emotionally invested in his relationship with Annie anyway.
Do you think that that's what they were trying to pull off? They were trying to pull off how he saw her, Igor.
Oh, if that was part of the intention, I don't think they did. I don't think it worked.
Apparently, apparently they're the romance of the movie. I'm supposed to be feeling the romance between them the entire time. And I'm like, what?
I did pick up, right? Like that Igor was like the minute they walked in and he saw her, I was like, oh, he's into her. This is going to be a thing. How are they going to handle this as a thing? Because in romance tropes, forbidden love, right? Like I can't date my brother's best friend. Which that's not this. However, with that said, if men read romance novels written by women, they would be able to achieve the forbidden love narrative very well. Because that actually, now that you're saying that, I'm like, fuck, I do kind of wish that there was more there. Because when they're at the end, when they're on the couch chatting, and he's like, "Happy birthday to me," and she's like, "It's your birthday," and he's like, "Well, it was yesterday," and that whole banter, I was like, this isn't enough. This isn't enough for me. Like, you're just like, are we starting another movie? And then at the end, when the thing happens between the two of them, I was like, I didn't get enough of this whole like forbiddenness. They're developing a connection. I never felt like she was developing a connection with him. I only ever felt he was developing a connection for her. And then when they're in the car and she's like climbing on top of him and they're doing, and then I was like, is she doing that because are you trying to tell us that she's connected with him and wants to do this? Or are you trying to tell us that she's just reverting back to what she knows, which is sex work?
I think it's the second. I think she assumed that he gave her something and now she has to hold up her end of the transaction.
I hate it.
I hate it.
I hate it because it would have been so much more powerful if that makes her crying makes so much more sense. Listen, I gotta tell you, after about an hour and 20 minutes, I stopped fully paying attention because I was like, this is so long.
This movie's
But
long.
I really felt unsatisfied with. I would have loved more between the two of them, because then her meltdown would, I think, would have been more impactful to me, because then you're showing us that, like, oh, she truly really did develop feelings for Igor, and now she doesn't know how to handle that, because like that balance between the transactional for physical attention and love versus the reality of like, oh, I have real feelings.
Also, you couldn't convince me for anything that she actually liked Vanya. Like, all of a sudden, I'm supposed to be sold that she's going to be really upset if they're divorced. And I'm like, yeah, because then you're not a billionaire. And people are like, no, it's deeper than that. And I'm like, no, it really shouldn't be. She should be trying to swindle these people.
I mean, her first question when he's like, "Marry me," and she's like, "How many carrots are you going to put on this finger?" Like,
yeah.
I wasn't fully convinced that she was convinced that he really wanted to marry her.
No.
I thought they were just doing role play. Like, in my mind, it's like, oh, she thinks they're doing role playing.
Yeah. No,
I feel so dumb. This movie makes me feel dumb.
well, and I think it's because it's a lot of people are projecting onto it, but they're not. But the story itself and the way that the characters are developed doesn't earn your projection.
Okay.
Because a lot of chatter about this movie is also how it's like a big fuck you to the oligarch and they treat us like objects and And
why? Because she screams at them in the annulment office?
Sure. Or because they dump her. They literally tell her that she's trash and that she gets $10,000 for her trouble for 2 days.
Which also I put in my notes, it's like, add a couple of fucking zeros for this shit.
Correct.
You're worth, like, who cares if the IRS is going to flag it if you give me more than 10K? I don't give a fuck.
I also don't know how that works. If Russia gives me money, do they have to still follow the $10,000 rule? I don't understand.
Yeah, if it's a gift, it's got to be. It used to be. It was 13K recently. I don't know if that's still the number.
But anyways, so like people are projecting that onto that, which I understand the mindset of wanting to see like a scrappy woman taking down the oligarch or telling them to fuck off, or seeing yourself in the late stages of capitalism on the verge of a revolution, and you're watching the story and you're like, that's right, fuck rich people. I get it. I don't think that's what Sean Baker was trying to portray to you.
Yeah, because you don't actually, they're coming out of it fine. Like, fuck rich people and fuck you to the oligarch would be them not walking away okay. They're walking away fine. They're walking away like this has never happened.
Also, I don't think that Sean Baker gets to be the person to talk to me about women being treated like objects by men and by and how rich people treat us, the working class. I don't need a white man to make a movie about the problems that he himself has caused.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
I'm
Right.
tired. Like, as you know, you and I have very differing views on Ted Lasso because I was like, that's why I can't fuck with Ted because he's a white dude trying to be like, masculinity's toxic, have you heard? And I was like, only been screaming about it for 5 years, but okay. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you have so many trophies. How's your
Yeah.
divorce going?
He doesn't have any trophies, so it's fine.
They never won a trophy for Ted
No.
Lasso?
No.
They never won an Emmy. I've been
Oh, you meant Emmys. Oh, I thought
yeah,
you meant like in the actual
I've been like
show, like
fucking
soccer match. Okay,
screaming.
okay, okay, okay,
I've
yeah,
been fucking screaming
yeah.
about this show getting awards,
No,
just
they
like
have
the
won
bear.
Emmys. Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. They have won Emmys,
right.
which
So what?
I feel are deserved. Continue.
Great. So I can't get on board with men just like over asserting themselves on stories where I'm like, you're the villain in the story. Like, why? They didn't let Scar write the Lion King.
No, but he did get a retelling in Mufasa.
I'm aware, and I still don't know where I fall on the villain retellings because
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
I'm like, sometimes people just be bad.
Well, I did love Cruella for that reason because it gave context
Yeah.
in a way that felt authentic to why women go bad
Oh
or
yeah.
whatever.
I'm all. Let's not get it twisted. I'm always for it when they're like, "This is why a woman's
Yeah,
bad,"
yeah.
and I'm like,
Okay,
"Of
okay. Of
course,
course.
promising young woman."
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like because we're also so like busting at the seams with how discontent we are with everything currently that everyone projected a lot onto this like weak ass movie that didn't actually give me fully living breathing characters that made me invested in what was happening.
Yeah, and like there's this, yeah, I get that. And also I was going to do some more research, but then I was like, you know what? I actually don't want that in my head. Was it you or was it me who told us that they didn't have an intimacy coordinator for this?
Mikey.
Mikey Madison said it in an interview, right?
Mikey told us on TikTok.
So when her memoir comes out in 25 years, I hope I'm still alive to read it because I really feel like she's going to have a different feeling about it because she just turned 26 in the year of 2025. So at best, she could have been 24 making this movie.
Yeah.
And that's still, I mean, yeah, she's been in the industry for a while, but that you're so young.
Well, and honestly, someone did post the question like, shouldn't that be their choice? Like as the actors? And I went, honestly, no.
I
I
don't,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think so.
I think
I,
it should just be standard practice in
I
law
think,
by now.
especially when somebody is under the age of 25.
Yes.
Because like a lot of times people who look really young, like the gal who plays Ginny in Georgia, she's in her 20s, but she looks really young, but they're in high school having sex. So like I need somebody to create a scenario where everyone is safe. Because if I'm a teenager in the year of 2023 trying to research Ginny in Georgia or looking into it, and I learn that, that's a piece of comfort. But just in general, for comfort for the all parties involved, because like just be- then you have something to cite if something goes wrong or if you feel uncomfortable. Well, the intimacy coordinator gave us this routine to do, and this happened, and it wasn't comfortable for me. It's like an HR protection, but we know HR is bullshit and only protects the company, but still.
And I get it, like no one wants to pay an extra person to be on set or whatever, but I literally thought that like studios would be chomping at the bits for intimacy coordinators. So then when someone rose a complaint, they could do the whole, we did everything we could. We hired that lady who's really good about the boundaries. Like we did everything we could. And they're like, they are very intimate repetitive sex scenes. Like there are so many sex scenes, and every time, and someone did text me, and they were like, a lot of character and plot development was sacrificed just to watch her get railed like a jackrabbit again. And I'm like, yes.
Well, even just in the opening scenes when she's like giving these older men lap dances and she's fully topless in a thin string bottom situation. Like, first of all, let me preface this with yes, I grew up to have shame around my body because religion. Secondly, regardless of that, you're full ass nude essentially. I want to know, and there's no vetting process for hiring people. How do I know that that old looking dude isn't going to get too handsy while we're filming? But then because of the context of the movie, he's going to feel justified for it. Like, I want to know that I'm safe in my work environment when this is what we're doing.
Lest we forget, Justin Baldoni wanted Blake Lively to be fully nude during the birth scene and have his buddy be the like OG, the OBGN.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
That
know. I just
like
feel like it's
just
not.
wanted his buddy.
We just want to make like it like I just want people to feel comfortable with, especially because you're not just getting naked like you're not just getting naked in front of a room full of people. You're getting naked on camera for millions of people to see. Like, you should feel comfortable and confident in how the development of that is happening.
Also, I don't think it should be my call as the talent to decide whether or not the intimacy coordinator is on set. I think my call as the talent is how I work with the intimacy coordinator and how often I want meetings, or like what's that going to look like on set, and having an open relationship with said intimacy coordinator. But if an authority figure from the movie that may win me an Oscar comes to me and says, "Hey, Natalie, we're a little iffy on whether or not we have the budget for the intimacy coordinator, yay or nay." I don't know. At 24 years old, I wasn't making choices based on what was best for me. I was making choices based on, like, okay, well, just like what makes it okay for everybody.
Right, right.
And maybe that's not who Mikey is, but all I could think about was like, she shouldn't have been asked that question. That's an inappropriate question to ask your talent.
And who's to say the way that the question was asked, it was presented in a way that made her feel safe to give an answer that she felt comfortable with?
Exactly. And that's why I think it should just be standard practice.
There's another scene too where I was just like, okay, little girl. And in the terms of like, but not actually okay, little girl, because it's like not her, it's the writing. He's like, have you ever seen a ring this big? Or have you ever seen a ring this size before? And I was like, a child says to a grown man working for a wealthy people, of course he's seen a ring this size. Like, which again, it was like another example of her like being kind of like naive and her world kind of small. But it also just felt like, are you kidding me?
I the thing of it is that like I someone on TikTok did say like there should be intimacy coordinators on set because if you're doing stunts, there's always a stunt coordinator.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And if they didn't have a stunt coordinator for those violent scenes, I'm also upset about that.
Yeah.
Because like what are we doing to make sure that like whatever's going on when fists are flying or whatever is fine? Like what are and honestly like I'm not saying that Sean Baker should write me a report of all of the ways that he made people feel safe on his movie, but maybe he should.
Right. You should.
Because I will just go on for the rest of my life being like he didn't care. Okay, that's my assumption. That's my bias. That's like I'll just be like he just didn't. So if he would like to prove to me otherwise, I'll listen. But from today until probably the day I die, until he gives me that report, my bias will be he didn't think of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it just all kind of comes back to what we started with. Like, for me, it's like, I think even if I hadn't known that the movie was written and directed and edited by a man, it still gives that feel.
Did I tell you about my sister's comments about Nosferatu?
No.
So Nosferatu was a movie that I enjoyed, and I thought it was beautiful and gothic and gorgeous. And you know, I love that Nicholas Hoult when he's a little fucking weirdo,
Yeah, he's such a cutie.
a little fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
So I loved it, and I didn't even care that it was over 2 hours. My sister was like, "You could tell that that movie was a fucking movie made by film bros for other fucking film bros to jack each other off about the greatness of film. And she goes, and here's how you know, in one fucking scene. It's like, so in Nosferatu,
Mm-hmm.
they used the rats to bring the plague. And like Nosferatu, for some reason, has control of the rats. I don't know what the vampire lore of that is, but he can control the rats. So Nosferatu basically threatens Lily Rose Depp, where it's like, oh, I'll get you and I'll kill everyone you know every night until I get you. So the first person to go is her friend, who is played by Emma. Is it Corbin or Corbett? They played Princess Di.
Corbin.
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 Thank you. Played Princess Di in The Crown. So Emma Corbin. I try not to use Emma's pronouns because I think they've changed, but I'm not always up to date on how they've changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always just use they, them.
So I will be using Emma. So Emma is getting eaten alive by rats with a titty out, like a full ass nipple titty out, like a flopping titty out for them rats. And my sister went, in what way, shape, or form did that elevate the scene? That she's dying via rat with a titty out. A man made that choice. Just like, please make sure we work in one more titty. A man made that choice. And then people are going to call it artistic. Because it's a film bro movie made for film bros. And I feel like that, like,
No, I feel like that. I feel like, sorry, there was a delay because I was on mute because of my dog. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
But I feel like I agree with your sister.
I also agree with my sister, and I'm kind of mad that I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Because, like, the whole thing is she's been thrown from bed. The character uses she, her pronouns, and that's why I've started using pronouns. Okay. So the character has been thrown from bed, and they're in this, like, Victorian nightie, so the nightie is being torn by rats. So I didn't even notice that a titty was out.
Right.
I probably, like, noticed that a titty was out, but I didn't
think of the...
Like, why is her... Why? Yeah. Also...
men want to see tits.
Exactly. It was just one more way to work a tit in.
I mean, sometimes I want to see tits too, but also, like, not if it's not relevant to the story plot. Right? Like in White Lotus, when Rick and Chelsea have sex and she's, like, on top of him and he pulls her, like, strap down to, like, kiss her chest.
When Carrie Coon drunkenly got her titties out because the Russian dudes were getting their dicks out, I was like, that makes sense.
Right.
That's appropriate.
Like it just, there's a time and a place.
We're all drunk, we're in the pool.
Just do it. Right? Didn't I text you? It's like, I've been to many a party where naked dudes are jumping in pools.
Yeah.
Like, it's a thing.
Any opportunity to get a dick out and flying in the chlorine.
Yes. So, like, but, like, I guess, is that where it's like, oh, gratuitous sex?
So I think that is what Gen Z is talking about when they say that they're sick of gratuitous sex in movies and TV.
Yeah.
Because to me, I understand why Sean Baker would, like, sit across the table from me and we're, like, doing the Hot Wings challenge or whatever. And he's like, no, they were all meaningful. And I'd be like, tell me how. It showed how their relationship was progressing. I never bought into their relationship, so you did a bad job.
Yeah, like, and gosh, like, their sex was so perfunctory.
Uh-huh. Which I guess is also purposeful. Like, he'd be bad at sex because he's a privileged white boy who's also 21.
Yeah, like, 20-year-olds don't know how to have sex.
No. And then, like, she teaches him how to do it in a nicer way, and then he goes right back to Jackrabbit in the next one. And I was like, why did we have to have an extra one then?
Yeah, like, is that because you want us to show that he's not taking her seriously? And, like, and especially because later on when he's at the club, when he's gone missing, and, like, one of the girls is like, oh, Vanya's here. And she's like, what? And they go to the club, and then that chick that she doesn't get along with is like, I'm going to give him the best ride of his life. And then he's basically saying all the same things he said to Anora, to this girl.
I was so thirsty for their beef story. Like I and like here's the thing too, like we watch a lot of TV, we watch a lot of movies. I've started reading screenplays. You and I have read some of the same screenplays. I can build a world in my head and I can like fill in blanks. Like I understand that those girls have beef and it has something to do with that girl being insecure about her men. But I am telling you that I was so thirsty for like the depth of that beef. Like, how far does that beef go? How does it function at work? How often is that guy going to Ani for dances? Like, I was like, and Hustlers would have given that to me.
Right. And there was so much too about like because this guy doesn't know how to write female beef. That's why, probably, because like I really do think that that's the one thing I'll give him, was giving Vanya the dialogue back that he was saying to her what he was saying to Anora. I was like, okay, thank you for that. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It would have been nice to have gotten a little bit more there as well. Yeah.
Well, and him feeding the dialogue to the girl that Honora has beef with, and it's the same stuff that he was saying to Ani night one or whatever. That's not Sean Baker understanding what women go through. That's Sean Baker understanding how men behave.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because then too. Yeah. Because of course he ends up back at the strip club. Of course he's gonna end up back there. Like, oh, that failed. Let me go get another one.
Well, at some point when I'm reading the actual script, I'm irritated at her. I'm like, why do you think this boy in love with you? Why aren't you asking these men for more money? Why aren't you running away? Why?
Yeah, I
like,
really needed her to ask for more money.
Like, I was like, why?
Like, girl.
I go, or just cut your losses. And then at some point, I was like, these are the weakest goons I've ever seen, because I'm pretty sure this girl would just be in the river.
Well, and then the point when they're like, when that guy's like, why is she tied up? And they're like, because she's crazy. And you're like, that's not actually an answer.
It's not an answer.
Like, because she's crazy. Like, and then they're like pointing to their scratches and their scars or their, wounds and stuff, and like looking around the room, and they're like, see, crazy. And you're like, no, but she's making a valid point about how you like assaulted her, and like she's defending herself. Like that's valid. Don't
Also,
call her crazy because you attacked her.
And yeah, it's just like, also another missed opportunity was the manager who told Ani, and the sister telling Ani, like, he's going to be done with you in a week. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if we don't circle back to these two women having like their guards up about this entire situation and knowing it's not going to work out for her, I go, missed opportunity. So Ani's world wasn't fleshed out at all.
Right.
I don't believe that the girl that I watched in the movie would have no friends and or really deep connections with one another. Now, when I watched The Substance and Demi Moore shot herself up with that goo, Annie and I looked at one another and went, she doesn't have one friend. That's sad. She doesn't have one friend to just shoot herself up in the spine or ask her to reconsider. I go, I'd call you and I'd be like, you're going to have to put this stuff in my spine, and then you're going to have to stitch up my back after a new one crawls out of me. You're just going to have to do that. And like, so I understood that Demi Moore didn't have friends. Like, that's a huge part of her character. But you can't tell me that Anora doesn't have relationships with other women.
Especially because that one friend she takes with her to the New Year's Eve party. There's that friend. So yeah, there really isn't any building out of that either, which yeah, I can see how that's frustrating. She doesn't, these characters don't really come up except for when she's kind of exiting their lives.
Mm-hmm. Also, like, again, if this was just like a insane hijinks, like, oh my gosh, in 24 hours all these Russian guys yelled and then I was $10,000 richer, again, I could have enjoyed that movie. I would have loved my free popcorn and my children's slushie. I would have loved it. But you, the Academy, made me believe that, and it's the same thing that I have with The Bear. And I know that you watch The Bear and you get it, and I just don't get it. I do not get The Bear. And every time it wins Best Comedy, I'm always like, not funny once. Has never been funny once. I don't think is it Jeremy White in that
Jeremy
show?
Allen White, yeah.
I don't think Jeremy Allen White has ever laughed. Not funny once.
So I actually will argue that season 3 should have been drama, because season 1 had, to me, a lot of like dramedy to it, but that's not why we're here.
That's not why we're here. And as someone who thinks that she's going to sit down and write a comedy and then has to text her friends, oh my gosh, I think it's a dramedy. Because I'm dramatic. I hope I get trophies too.
Yeah.
But I hope that people at least laugh during my show.
So like, so here's what I want to say. You know, we just are coming off the high of season 3 White Lotus. We've had conversations with you, me, and our group chat about how like Mike White's done such a great job at just like having this like, here's extreme wealth we're confronting this privilege in a way that is like, holy shit, it is a thing to be made fun of. It is ridiculous. It shouldn't be the whatever all the things. Part of me feels like, because you kept saying earlier too that like there are people out there who are like, oh, she's saying fuck you to the oligarchs and we're saying fuck you to wealth and all these things. It's almost as if somebody was trying to be like Mike White and couldn't land the plane.
Oh no. Mike
Because
White
when
right in.
Because when I think about that scene in the airplane, in the private jet, and she's like, what? Because, she understands Russian, but she doesn't speak it well. It's a whole thing for the movie. And they're like talking about her, and she's getting offended and more offended. And then she finally is just like, you know what? You're a fucking little bitch. You're all suck. And then like Igor's like, I do think at the minimum she's owed an apology. And the mom's like, my son does not apologize to anybody. Like, if that happened in White Lotus, it would have been executed better, because the whole show is showing us the ridiculousness of these extreme wealthy people. There is layers, there is nuance. This is what we end up kind of hating about them, And the whole movie of Anora, we are not getting any nuance or layers about like this arms dealer, or like, the son who's like, I don't want to join the family business, but I want the family money. Like,
they Google his father and then tell us he's an arms dealer, and then that is the only thing that we know about how that man makes money.
Right.
They don't even like give us a little bit of context as to why all these men be scared. Like,
right.
And then I'm also like, because people are also like, what you don't understand is that there's a hierarchy, and Anora, because she's a sex worker, is at the bottom. And the goons even feel like they're above her because at least they're not a sex worker. And I was like,
I got that.
Okay. That's not riveting.
Like, I got that, and it felt dated. Like, because even Jason Alexander in Pretty Woman still felt like he had power over Julia Roberts and exerted it in a way that actually felt like a natural progression for the fucking movie.
Yeah. Also, they were all partying with her 2 days ago. Like, they knew this trick. Like,
yes.
he would just get a lady and pay her for a week, and then she'd show up at parties, and they'd be like, oh, that's his lady for the week.
Right.
And I get like the other goons were like older or whatever, but like this whole like, yeah, and it's just like, it's really showing how women just aren't taken seriously in our society. And I was like, did you need that movie and 2 hours of it to tell you that? Because baby,
2 hours and 15 minutes.
Baby, I got news.
45 minutes, you could cut it off. Mike White could tell a better story in 45 minutes.
Honestly, I want the unedited season 3 of White Lotus, because that man said out loud that he could have made every episode 90 minutes. And I guess HBO told him that no one would watch it for 90 minutes every week. And I was like, I would have. I would have. Okay. Like, I would have. For Parker Posey alone. Like, because could you imagine Parker Posey being like, Lachlan, you don't have to apologize. And it's because she's already not apologized to Leslie Bibb.
Right.
Saxon.
Saxon, no. I know that's not the quote, but
Saxon,
like,
no.
better wash out that blender. Who does that?
That was so nasty.
So nasty. But that is part of the
Privilege.
story. That's part of the privilege. He's trying to exert himself because his brother spent 5 fucking episodes telling this child that he's gonna guide him. He's gonna help him. He needs to get laid. I'm here to make you like me. Blah. Something happens, and the brother's like, oh fuck, this didn't go the way I wanted it to. Bails on his brother. Sister picks up the ball unintentionally, and that fucking fails. And then this little itty bitty child who's been infantilized his entire life makes a terrible decision. That is so much more compelling in the White Lotus than it is in Anora.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, and again, maybe it's because I'm in the year of the hater. I don't like it when white men try to tell my story. I just don't like it. Like, it just, and reasonable people who don't have my bias, we're like, well, of course, if you have a movie that's directed and written by a man, the male gaze will be naturally in it, but you can probably see past it. Well, you think, but I can't.
Okay, here's my argument against that. Or here's my contribution to this dialogue about it. I read A Sky Full of Elephants.
Okay.
It is a 3-narrator story, primarily a father and a daughter, and then there's a third narrator who's also a woman. The story is written by a man. He does such a fantastic job creating a 20-year-old girl with depth, with layers. I was floored. Like, for a hot minute, I forgot a fully grown ass man, wrote a 20-year-old woman. And maybe that's also part of why I'm so salty, because it can be done. This author came to this story clearly with the intention of wanting to do it right, serve and honor the themes that he was trying to convey, and I think he fucking crushed it. And everyone I know who read the book also thinks he fucking crushed it. So it can be done.
Yeah, when I went and saw Barbarian, and I was like, this is the female experience. We have to be worried about monsters at all time. But it wasn't in a way that like was like preaching or I mean, honestly, some people didn't get it. Some people didn't get that every man in the movie, whether or not they actually hurt someone in Barbarian, was a different type of monster that I, as a woman, have to watch out for. That's how subtle it was. That's how much I was clued in to the female experience in Barbarian. I had to believe that nuance and subtlety was directed and written by women. I was like, all women team, let's fucking go. And then I get home, I look it up, men. I was like, who let them?
But they did it a good job.
It's my favorite movie. It's my favorite horror movie. I could talk about Barbarian for years.
Get this girl on Brett Goldstein's podcast, because so can he. And like and that's the other thing too, like we just read Kindred in my book club, and I tried to get through the screen adaptation, and I was like, no, this ain't it, because you removed the female gaze. And that's the problem, is you're not doing the female gaze. You are not honoring the female experience, but people, and that's part of the patriarchy I'm deciding right now, live on your show.
Oh my God. Everyone, stop. The patriarchy's been present the whole
time. Because it's like this idea that like, oh, I can do, it's like that, sorry, Natalie, I'm such an idiot today. But it's like that whole premise of like that whiteness, that male whiteness, where it's just like, I can do it. Anybody can do it. Like, duh, of course I can do it. And then like, everyone's like, oh my God, that was so good. And you're just like, that was fucking mid, bro.
Bro, it's Saxon thinking he can sleep with every woman in Thailand.
It's Saxon. He can sleep with every woman in Thailand. Yes.
Listen, okay. I'm a Ted Lasso hater, but I'm a Brett Goldstein lover till I die, and here's why.
Because he's fucking amazing.
I found out that Brett Goldstein also believes what I believe in Grease too.
Yes, he
which
does.
is that the women are more flushed out and have more agency in Grease too, which is lauded as the cult classic Goofy movie that no one actually likes, except for Natalie and Brett.
Yes, you guys need to start a club.
Than the original Grease, where it's like, oh, but like Rizzo smokes cigarettes and is willing to have an abortion, and like Sandy puts on leather, and it's like, nah, you gotta watch Grease too. You have to watch Michelle Pfeiffer be like, I want a cool writer, and I will accept nothing less.
And I will accept nothing less.
You gotta watch Paulette tell Johnny exactly where he can put it if he's gonna keep playing games with her. Grease 2, Brett Goldstein, this is your invite. Yeah. You come on my show. You watch Grease 2. We talk about Grease 2. The amount of detail I could go into Barbarian, I can also go into for Grease 2.
You guys can talk about both because he also loves Barbarian. And I know this because I listen to his podcast.
We should be friends.
Yeah.
We should be friends. I did stop the timer at the 7-minute mark. Do you have anything else that you would like to bring up about this movie?
Okay, the last thing I want to say is that there is no excuse for men to not tell female stories well. We have solid examples, all like littered, but yet there's still this choice to have this attitude of like, I got this. No, you don't. Fuck off.
No, you don't. Fuck off. Get your grubby hands off my story.
Get your goddamn.
I reserve the right.
Here we go. Get my goddamn story out your mouth.
Out your mouth. I reserve the right to be pissed off every time a white man writes women badly. I reserve the right to take it personally. I reserve the right to be like, this is my vendetta, and I get to scream at you about it, because you're right. Every man has a woman in his life. Every man has seen women. Every man has had the same internet as you and I, lived through the Me Too movement, is currently living through the rapture of our rights.
And there are men who choose to do the work and give us justice and honor us. And then there are men who will say, well, I have a daughter, so I should probably get better.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no reason. And again, our entire White Lotus episode will be how white people like to go to other countries that have a different type of culture than white people culture. And instead of just being like, this is beautiful, we'll be like, where are my chicken nuggets? Like, right. I thought that you were going to adapt to me. Why would I adapt to you?
It's very, oh gosh, it's such an that is very American.
That's very white America.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with men. Like, oh, please, be an active member of my story. But you better be a participant and not a voyeur.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now I'm inspired to make a list of stories that have well-written women written by men.
Yeah. Do it. I'll put it on the internet. All right. Well, let's move into our closing out ceremony. Julia, if we needed to take away one lesson from Anora and what watching Anora, reading Anora, and discussing Anora was like, what should our lesson be for the future?
Our lesson for the future is question everything written by men.
Think deeply on it, in fact.
Think deeply on it. Do not accept it just because a group of people who can vote said this was great. Because guess what? A group of people voted and said this is going to be great.
And look at us now.
And look at us now.
And look at us now. The great Taylor Tomlinson once said, sometimes I wonder if a movie was good or if I just really liked the popcorn. If I was just really happy to have popcorn. And I had never felt so seen, because there's a lot of times where I'm finishing my popcorn during credits and I'm texting my friends and I was like, I just saw the best movie. It's going to change media as we know it. And they're like, Natalie, you're at Shrek 4. And I was like, but it's great.
You have really good themes, so there's that.
You're like, Natalie, you are at Moana 33. Like, just finish your popcorn and please leave. Like,
but there's validity in what Taylor Tomlinson has said.
Truly, I felt like there were more flushed out female characters that I could relate to in Bodies, 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 which was
Yeah.
supposed to just be my stupid summer movie. It
Yeah.
was supposed to be my stupid summer fling, and it ended up being Lord of the Flies. And I was like, I actually love Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite story.
That, I guess that's it. It's like, think deeper about it. If it doesn't feel right to you, research why. These are just universal things, not just relevant to entertainment.
Get past how happy you were that you had popcorn.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go see Death of a Unicorn. I believe that my sister only wants to see it because Paul Rudd's cute, and that's her prerogative. I am going to see it because honestly, I can't tell what the fuck it's about from the preview.
No, the marketing, the advertising for it, I'm just like, I'm sad, but I don't know why.
I just don't know why. But unicorns have a lot of lore that's steeped in femininity and honoring women. There's a lot of purity that's attached to unicorn lore and the purity myth and the virginity shit. And I would like to see if A24 used any of that. Like, to be like, did you honor unicorns?
I would be surprised if they didn't. But anyway,
yeah, honestly, they have a pretty solid team. I will say that I took my sister to Bleak twice. And all she knew about that movie was Channing Tatum was in it. And then they flashed a big, like, in this movie, there will be violence on women and there will be sexual violence and all of it. And she looked at me after the content warning and she's like, I didn't look up this movie at all when I told you I'd see it. And part of me thinks that that's what's happening with Death of a Unicorn, but we shall find out.
We shall see. We shall see.
Julia, what should we manifest for moviegoers everywhere, women everywhere, the collective energy? I guess maybe Sean Baker, who I'm mad at.
I would like to manifest feminine rage.
Yes, talk on it.
We shall remain unhinged. We will be menaces. We will take free money.
Every time a man writes a bad woman, and
we are owed compensation.
I'm owed I might start suing for emotional mental damages.
I'm sure their Venmos aren't hard to find. Just send a request.
What was the last thing I said? And I was like, if this doesn't happen, I'm suing for emotional mental damages. And it was something so stupid. It was something so, and I was like, I will sue HBO for mental emotional damages. I know I texted it to Krista Rosa, so I'll be looking that up later. But yeah, I am very serious with that 2025 and forevermore is the year and the era of the hater until they start loving us.
Honestly, how many times last week did I text you, I woke up a hater today? Which is, you have known me long enough to know that's not normal.
You're not a hater. I am. My mean girl, my early OO's mean girl has just been waiting. Much like
sitting in the wings.
Yeah. Just sitting in the wings. Much like Piper's inner hoe from White Lotus. Like, my inner mean girl, my 2000s, like, ew, whatever, loser. Cool story, bro. You want $1?
I can't eat this food for a year? That's so gross.
My inner mean girl has just, like, been sitting in my gut being like, is it hard time yet? And I'm like, no, the internet keeps saying that we have to be nice no matter what.
Tell me when to put me in, coach.
Tell me when to put me in, coach. And then she, through my gut, saw and heard Kendrick. And she went, I think it's time. And I went, baby, you right. Kendrick said it's fine.
It is time.
And Samuel L. Jackson signed off on it. So we good.
Yes.
We good.
Yes.
So, Julia, I don't do my own manifestations and lessons anymore if the guest is good enough and I don't have anything more to say. So congratulations, I'm done.
Go team.
Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait until another movie that's supposed to represent women does a bad job and you and I have to jump on a mic and talk about it.
Love it. Love it here. Love it here.
Please let all the listeners know what you're currently doing and how they can support you.
Please find me on the internet. On Instagram, I'm at the Julia Washington. My business is at Prose and Glow. I make literary themed candles and host literary themed events. Please buy my shit. Please. Support female-owned business by buying my shit.
Yeah. You forgot to add the other qualifier that makes the white people feel guilty. Make the white women feel guilty.
I am a Black single mother putting a child through college without any support from that child's father.
Yeah. If I get to reserve my anger for men who write women badly all the time, Julia gets to make white women feel guilty. And I've decided that that's the rule. And if you want to fight me on it, that's fine. But I think TikTok decided that that was a rule now, that the women of color get to make white women feel guilty. We've earned that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm just trying to put this baby through college. Give him health insurance. He ain't getting nothing else. I'm the only parent.
Y'all earned that for me, all you white women who didn't listen to me. Y'all earned it for me, so I'm here too, feeling guilty.
Yes, we told y'all there'd be a depression.
Oh my god, I think we're heading towards a recession. Oh my god, I think it was the patriarchy the entire time. Oh my god, wait, hold on. Has the patriarchy been in the room with us the entire time?
Listen, I'm blaming it on the fact that my period is probably starting at any moment.
Any moment. She's currently bleeding. Did you know that Challengers was written by a dude? And you know who was a fully fleshed out woman in Challengers?
Zendaya. Like, this is what I'm saying. There are examples. There's no excuse for men to not write strong, fleshed out female characters.
You know what I'm manifesting and who I'm giving permission to write strong female characters? Tom Holland.
Yes.
Because he did the Rihanna umbrella dance.
He's such a book boyfriend. I fucking love it.
So Tom Holland, you have my personal permission. You can come on. We can work it out. We'll talk. You make that movie. You and I, we sit down. We tell everyone that you did it right, because I know you would. Mm-hmm. He has my permission. Him and Brett Goldstein. They have my permission. And honestly, I believe that I should be the only person who determines who gets to do what.
I mean, we've got evidence.
Until you all start acting right, I get to just choose. I get to choose whether or not you're smart enough to watch White Lotus. I get to choose everything. Okay? I'm Natalie Katona. You can find me at NatalieK124, TikTok and Instagram. You can find the show at Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram, to all the men I've tolerated before on YouTube and Patreon. And remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including a movie getting a trophy and you being fucking confused why. Smiles are for joy.